Welcome back to The Evil Within. This is our You Asked For It achievement run, therefore it's a new game on Akumu difficulty. You can see we're also tracking the every nook and cranny and Master of Unlocking counts for you. We're about halfway through Chapter 11, having just completed the number 2 Rage Quit point for Akumu. There's some lore coming up that's critical. I want to kind of get you set for it. As a summary, Ruben Victoriano was the original creator of the STEM system. He was primarily doing it on his own research at his own home in the Victoriano estate. Dr. Jimenez was supplying him bodies to work with after he ran through the Elk River villagers. Jimenez recognized the potential of STEM as something Mobius would be interested in. The two of them brought then Mobius in, and the two of them kind of built it to scale, so it's a much larger system than Ruben had probably originally imagined or had any real particular need for. Ruben saw his work being stolen by Jimenez, as well as being used for something that he wasn't necessarily in alignment with by Mobius. Therefore, he locked the system to his own brainwaves. By doing that, he put himself in direct opposition to Mobius, thinking he would become essential and be eliminated from the project. Well, they took it to the extreme and dissected him in the same way he had done to the Elk River villagers, and put his brain and his spinal column as the central processing unit, if you will, of STEM itself. In doing this, Ruvik has been inside STEM right from the beginning. He is at the core of it. However, there was some progress made after he was made into Ruvik.
Somehow I can see that light. That shaft of light from the lighthouse. From anywhere in this place. It seems to penetrate everything. Penetrate me. That view of the hospital is not in my memory yet somehow. It is more solid than anything I have made exist here. Was it always there? Something changed under that light. It calls, it repulses, it draws the others. They think they'll reach the source, regain what they've lost. They don't even know what that is.
Now, what was added to the system after he was dissected and made into Ruvik? They came to his estate. They came to the Victoriano estate, captured him, dissected him, put him into the STEM. That STEM is not at the Victoriano estate nor at Beacon. That's at Mobius. The system that they plugged him into is at Mobius. Dr. Jimenez found in the notes that were left behind at not all, they took most of the notes, but he did find a note that was left behind that suggested a form of a wireless STEM. Jimenez then hid that to him, kept it to himself, built upon it, and made a wireless STEM. He turned it on. That's the beacon that Ruvik is talking about in that audio tape. I'm going to pause for this personal document, and then we'll continue that discussion.
July 11th, 2012. Almost 6 months since the accident. Myra and I drift further apart with every passing week. I have to stay strong, but it's so easy to drown my thoughts in whiskey. I figure as long as it doesn't affect my work, what I do on my own time is private. I finally got Myra to open up to me about the accident. Now I'm more worried than ever. I don't know what's worse, the fact that Myra's becoming paranoid and maybe losing her mind, or the fact that what she is proposing, that the fire wasn't an accident. It could be real. I owe it to her to trust her instincts. But if they're correct, God help whoever did this.
That's an important note too, but I want to finish the discussion about what that audio tape from Ruvik meant. So Ruvik has been sitting inside the STEM at Mobius. Jimenez turns the wireless STEM on, and it's like this glaring light to Ruvik. And at first, Ruvik is not sure what it is. There's a lot of implication in that. In that he doesn't have complete control over the whole system because this is not at his home territory. This is not where he is locally housed. So arms race that was between Ruvik and Sebastian of trying to get enough bioenergy, Ruvik to overcome Leslie's stronghold and Sebastian to confront Ruvik directly. That arms race turned into a foot race when at the end of chapter 8, Leslie's sanctuary was breached. So Leslie no longer has any place to hide, and Ruvik no longer needs energy to overcome that sanctuary. That turned into a foot race, but it's a very literal foot race. Well, obviously not literal. They're all sitting in, milky fluid in canisters, or in case of Ruvik in a canister, in case of Sebastian in a pod or a tub of milky liquid. So it's not literally a foot race, but metaphorically trying to get through the pathways, the electrical conduits that make up the STEM project, trying to get from where they are to Beacon. And the central processing unit there, that Ruvik's mind is still associated with that, but at the same time, it was new to him and something that he had to get to as well as Sebastian has to get to. Okay, so enough of that. So in the last episode, we were talking about the shared trauma that makes Leslie, Ruvik, and Sebastian all kind of crucial to the story that's being told. We talked about how Ruvik had locked the system to his own brainwaves, and that put him in opposition to the desires and the intents of Mobius. Well, he had found in his own research that Leslie had very similar brain patterns to himself. This does two things. It would allow Ruvik to download his own consciousness into Leslie if he can overcome his psyche. That's bad for Leslie. The other side that's maybe even worse for Leslie is that Mobius could replace the brain and spinal column of Reuben, with the brain and spinal column of Leslie. So things are not looking good for Leslie. Leslie's been able to hold this off. And in the last episode, we were talking about that life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% how you react to what happens to you. The shared trauma that all three of our main characters here have. Reuben's sister was killed in a barn fire that was set by the Elk River villagers. Leslie's parents were murdered in front of him when he was a child. Sebastian's only daughter, Lily, was burned in a house fire.
Kidman?
That's now, we just saw a note that says his wife, Myra, is suspecting it was arson, that it wasn't an accident. That puts, according to the DLC and Jimenez in the DLC, saying that life shared similarities in lifetime trauma results in synchronized brain patterns. That means that Sebastian's on the same synchronized pattern as Leslie and Ruvik. So then that begs the question, why is Ruvik looking to download himself into Leslie? The obvious note is that he knew Leslie existed before he was made into Ruvik. So every time Leslie has been attached to the stem, I can get out if I can get to him. This is the first time he's encountered Sebastian, so he may not fully recognize the synchronicity there. However, I think there's a more fundamental understanding of why. And I think that's the traumas are the 10% that happen to him. The 90% that they made of it is the reaction to it. Now, as a note here, there is not a hanging body there, so you cannot go to the car to the right and you cannot go up those stairs. If you do, you will die. There's no way out of it. Just period. There's no way out of it if you go up those stairs. So you have to continue to swim and experience this, like, why are you just treading water? Swim. And experience the fact that the sprint key does nothing for when you're swimming. But you have plenty of time. Get over here. Just swim straight to that car. You'll come up here. But you want to swim at an angle where you're behind this column. It's not too particularly hard. Wait for that beeping to start. That means that gate's opening. Use him as the distraction. You shoot him. He falls in the water. Fish go after him. You go through the gate. There is one hanging body up there, the firefighter that has the tank on his back. You could have used him, but you need to kill that guy anyway, so just use him as the bait. there's a really clean strategy to how to get through this little part on Akumu. As far as I know, it's my own strategy, and watched other people, and they do something similar, but I think I have the better solution, and I'll show you why. In my particular case, I pick up this bottle that's just laying there for you, still in the crouch where they can't see you, and you want to aim towards that area over there by the door where Kidman is being held. Once they all start going to that draws everybody in the room that's there currently. But you have to get up there far enough. There's 2 that will drop down extra when you get closer. So you're going to get an electric bolt, and watch, see those 2 that dropped in? They're still caught in the electric bolt too. The fire is not likely to get all of them, so you need to be ready with another bolt. And I didn't have another electric bolt. Switched quickly to flashbangs. Remember, our flashbangs have several seconds on them, so I've got plenty of time to deal with 2 people with a flashbang. You would not have time for a flashbang for all those other people. You could have used a freeze bolt instead of a shock bolt, and then those people would have died without having you to do anything. They would just explode after they're frozen for a while. But the freeze bolts are more expensive. They cost an extra part. It's sort of just up to you which one you want to use. I've tried both. The key is that you need to get them back there far enough, place that where it will catch the 2 that drop down, get close enough to them while they're frozen to get those 2 to drop down, get caught in, and this is the reason I use a shock bolt, because if you use a freeze bolt, the 2 that fall down, the freeze explosion has already happened, so they don't get caught in it. The way I did it, they get caught in it. So use a shock bolt. I guess that's my final advice there. Okay, and then the last part of the technical strategic tactics here is when you saw I disarmed a bear trap that's far to the right of the end of the room down there by that window. You have to disarm that before you come near this door, because what happens next is scripted and you can't stop it.
Save it for later. There are probably more of them around.
You have no choice. It feels like you have a choice. It feels like you run down there, but really you don't. You have no choice. You have to run down there. And if you notice, Sebastian will back up. That's all scripted. He would have stepped into the trap. Now, that's the strategy that's also mine. So the bottle was mine. The run by the stairs, but use a flash bolt when you get to the bottom, not to the bottom of the stairs, but midway down the stairs, turn around, use the flash bolt. Especially if it's upgraded, so you have plenty of time to get all 3 of these guys. You can see I'm just standing there for a moment. That allows you to pick up the key that's in the elevator. If you don't care about the key in the elevator, then you can just run. Just keep running. Just go on down the stairs. Don't turn around. They won't follow you. But I wanted the key because we're working on the Master of Unlocking, and this is going to be key number 36. They're in the elevator for you. Okay, so we talked about the 90%, 10% formulation of life is 90% your reaction to it. Ruvik's reaction to losing to the barn fire, where he loses his sister, and the trauma that he then suffers in his basement, is at first anger that turns to just cooks and bakes in the isolation of the basement that his father locks him in, into hate, just pure unabridged hate.
I'm so glad you're all right. Ever since the church,
You were at the church?
Yeah, Joseph and I. He's in bad shape, or at least he was when I last saw him.
What about the boy from the hospital? Leslie?
I found him in a cage. He freaked and ran, though.
Now remember, that's all the way back to chapter 7. So here we are in chapter 11, so it's been 4 chapters since these 2 have seen each other. Sebastian, at the time, just before that, was kind of curious who maybe Kidman was. He's sort of put that in the back burner, and he's concentrated on who Ruvik was. Kidman, per her storyline, she's an agent of Mobius, and her only concern is Leslie. So the only question she asks is, "What about Leslie?" I haven't seen him in a while. Okay, so we were talking about the reaction, the 90-10 formulation.
Things.
And Ruvik's reaction was anger that turned to hate in the basement.
Joseph
Leslie's
was.
reaction.
It's like he was turning into one of those things.
Maybe it doesn't affect everybody.
Leslie's reaction was kind of the opposite. Instead of hate and anger, he turned to fear and isolation. Basically, he made himself into a victimhood. He embraced the victimhood of the event, whereas Ruvik rebelled against the event. His turned to hate and wanting to overcome and destroy those that caused the incident. Leslie's reaction was to hide and try to stay safe from the incidents ever happening again. Important cutscene here.
Sebastian? What is...
Stay back. What is this? Did you shoot me?
You started turning into a monster. You attacked me. I'm sorry, but you're tainted now. You might try to stop me through you.
Wait, what are you talking about?
And now the mystery of who Kidman is comes full circle and should probably be of more interest to Sebastian than it is. He thinks he's winning an arms race in building up bioenergy
Get it open.
that he'll be able to overcome Ruvik. So he's
Leslie?
not as concerned about it
Leslie,
as he
is
probably
that
should
you?
be. So the difference in the reaction between Ruvik and Leslie to their shared trauma of the murders of their loved ones
Leslie, that's good.
makes
little
Leslie
more.
the perfect vessel for Reuben. So not only was he somebody that Reuben knew before he
What is
became
it?
Ruvik would be
Ruvik?
compatible, but he's also the perfect vessel. If Ruvik tries to download himself into Leslie, Leslie will hide in the corner of his own mind. He will go into his own dark basement. And in doing so, he will hand the key to Ruvik to just lock the door. And he will just basically be in the basement of his
Leslie?
own mind, locked away forever. No contest, no dissent, no struggle for control. Ruvik's now the owner of the house with a boy locked in the basement. End of
Getting
game.
tired of playing games.
That's not true for Sebastian. Sebastian's response to his trauma was neither hate. He felt it was an accident. Now we saw that now Myra's maybe thinking it wasn't an accident. But for years, he has felt it was an accident. He internalized this. He took ownership of it, even if it makes not complete sense that as the father, he didn't set the fire. It wasn't because of any faulty wiring that he did around the house or anything like that. I don't know how I ran over the Roomba there. Just saying, don't try that. Don't try to run over a Roomba. Don't know why it worked, but I did not look the gift horse in the mouth. I ran up the ladder. You notice that's very different from the first time you get to the gas chambers in survival mode. I mean, there's traumas there. You also notice that the gas is still real, but the haunted that I was saving not having incinerate bolts for are not here. There's just this one haunted. He has a stick of dynamite. He's a suicide bomber. You must catch him. And it's very odd. You have to run at him, which is counterintuitive to get a stealth kill. You have to run at him as fast as you can as soon as he turns. Don't go before he turns, but as soon as he turns, you have to run at him. Duck and you'll get the key frame to stealth kill him. Now you can see there are still other zombies in there, but all you need was the key card. So just go on out. There's one last surprise here for you at this door when you open it. Short on matches, pick them up. When you open it, there's going to be 4 haunted on the other side of that door that are all ready to grab you. So you need to be ready to step back. What I found is that a flashbang works, a flash bolt. I don't know why that doesn't set anything off, because you would think even a little spark like that would set off the gas, but it doesn't. If you're real quick and can get your feet in the right place precision-wise, you can kill all 4 of these with the bolts if you've been upgrading them the way I have. But you can see I didn't get the keyframe there, so I left that frame up there because I thought I was already dead, and so I thought I was going to have to reload, but I didn't die. I just came out of the menu and ran around him. So it was a shock to me to not get that 4th guy. There's Joseph. Yay.
Joseph.
Okay, so Sebastian's response is he internalized it. He internalized it with a fair amount of personal guilt, even if it's misplaced guilt, even if he wasn't responsible, he placed it there. That's what you call individual responsibility. The only path to true freedom, individual freedom, is individual responsibility. And that's the path that Sebastian took. It's somewhere between becoming a victim and hiding in the basement like Leslie does, and becoming enraged and full of hate and becoming a bully like Ruvik does. Don't miss this statue. It's hard to find, but you need to shoot it from over here, otherwise you can't get the sniper rifle up high enough to hit it. I hate the way this game walks the sniper rifle. It's so counterintuitive. So Sebastian responded with individual responsibility. That led to the individual freedom that he is now expressing himself inside STEM with. In other words, he's strong enough, he realized that he had failed, he took responsibility for his actions, he's trying to improve himself. He's doing that, he's confronting Ruvik directly head on in an arms race, trying to get enough bioelectrical energy to improve himself to be able to confront Ruvik directly. Leslie's hiding from Ruvik, and Ruvik is the mastermind of all this horror that's going on. You can see how the different reactions to the shared traumas that they had are critical to an understanding of how and who they are, especially inside of STEM. Ruvik is domineering. He wants to overpower everybody. He wants to terrify everybody. He's killing people. Leslie is just trying to hide from the whole thing, and Sebastian's trying to fix it. You can't get a better character description of those 3 than their responses to their shared trauma. One turned to hate and anger, one turned to fear and victimhood, and one turned to individual responsibility. And that's all you really need to know about the game. Ruvik cannot download himself into Sebastian because Sebastian is his own person. He is free because he's willing to take responsibility for his actions, even if he misplaces some of that guilt that he has.
August 2012. As if I don't have enough to deal with personally and professionally, Joseph and I have been assigned to a rookie to train. Great babysitting duty. Kidman is young and green, but has that sense of entitlement that all rookies have these days. I always catch her giving me sideways glances whenever I have to bend the rule book a bit. She doesn't understand that sometimes it's part of the job if you want to break a case. Personality-wise, she's a cold fish, distant. It's her job to observe and assist, but sometimes it feels like she's a scientist looking at samples in a petri dish, more like she's merely watching us instead of trying to learn from us. There's something about her that gets under my skin, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Joseph, as usual, tells me that I'm being oversensitive. I think he's got a crush on her, maybe. All I know is that I've got to keep the things close to the vest when she's around. Serial killer investigation missing. Identity and fate of investigator unknown. Case goes cold in countryside serial killer investigation. Police deny lead investigator missing.
Okay, so the newspaper and the note come just a couple of months after the last personal note that we read, where Sebastian was concerned that Myra is either becoming paranoid or worse yet, that her suspicions that the fire that killed Lily was arson. We see a newspaper article where Myra has gone missing. She was the lead investigator on the Elk River serial killer, as well as looking for Lily at that time. Myra's gone missing. That's when Kidman shows up as a junior detective assigned to Sebastian. But even then, even before STEM, there was something that was in the back of Sebastian's mind that Kidman wasn't who she presented herself to be. Something that he couldn't quite put his finger on. He still hasn't put his finger on it, but he's still uncomfortable with it. And that has colored the canvas of the reaction between Sebastian and Kidman from the start. Remember, he told Kidman to stay outside and be their backup, not come directly in. He and Joseph went straight into the thing. Remember, she didn't react in the police car. She didn't just react when Joseph and Sebastian were affected by the wireless stim in chapter 5. And then just when Sebastian was turning here in chapter 11, she didn't react again. It's like she doesn't even hear that signal. And we find out in the DLCs that's because she's quote-unquote inoculated against it. So she has something running through her blood that is keeping that signal from reaching her brain. You can see that we just got the Magnum here in the this chapter. And so we got it in the last episode just before the big construction zone fights. And we're upgrading it. That Magnum is key to how I want to end the game. So specifically planning for what's often called the number 4. It's kind of there are 2 number 4 rage quit points, but that Magnum is crucial for what you're about to do in chapter 12. Do not leave this chapter without having that gun equipped. Do not go into chapter 12 on Akumu without having the Magnum equipped. I can't say it any clearer than that. Make sure that Magnum is equipped and loaded. We only have 8 rounds, but you're only going to need a few of them. But you need it at the very beginning of chapter 12. I promise you. Do not leave without that set. I'm setting it here because I'm basically going to run out and run to a cutscene that ends the chapter. It takes a little while, so we still have a little time to talk. So we've talked about the 90-10 formulation of life's 90%. What your reaction to the 10% that happens to you? Talked about the difference of those and why Leslie is the perfect housing for Ruvik to escape STEM on, and why Sebastian is not. Why Sebastian is an actual real threat to Ruvik. We also saw at the beginning of the chapter that Ruvik is not housed at Beacon, that Beacon was turned on after he was already inside his STEM, and so it's something new to him, so he actually has to get there as well. So he has to find a way to maneuver to get there. All right, well, that was the end of our chapter 11. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed presenting it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Take care.